Hi, I'm Julian Lung, and this is Painting and Fighting, where I paint miniatures and we talk about professional fighting. This Saturday will be Jorge Masvidal's last attempt at a UFC world title, and he'll be fighting Kamaru Usman. Along the way, we'll have Weili Zhang versus Namajunas, as well as Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade. The reason why I started painting and fighting was mainly because there's too many talking heads when it comes to prediction videos. I really like talking about MMA and I really like learning about the sport. Full disclosure, I'm not a professional painter. I've painted about 3 or 4 models in my life, and realistically this is just a show where I paint miniatures and talk about fights. This show won't necessarily be an in-depth breakdown of the fights, and if you want in-depth content, you can always check out the Fight Site channel where we have a fight prediction panel, and it's really great content for those who want to get some in-depth breakdowns and predictions for the fights. This week we're going to be painting Tyrannid Hormagaunts. Don't forget to prime your miniatures. I made the mistake of not wearing gloves, and as you can see, my hands were covered in primer paint, and this took me quite a lot of time to get it off of my hands, so just make sure to always prime your miniatures and wear gloves as well, and also be outdoors or in a well-ventilated room. I used a Vallejo white primer, and primers are used to adhere paint to your model. To start, I used Ulthuan Gray for the skin of the Tyrannid. I used Ulthuan Gray because I wanted something similar to the box art, and Ulthuan Gray is a little bit darker with a bluer tinge. So let's get back into the fights. This is Jorge Masvidal's last attempt at a UFC world title, and I think this is a really difficult fight for him, even if it is a rematch. That's because Jorge Masvidal's entire game is built around looking for counters and hanging around in open space, which is something that Usman won't give him. And also hanging around the fence. I'm not really sure how he's going to be able to handle Usman's cage wrestling, as well as Usman pushing up against the fence, and I don't give too much credit to Masvidal for being able to stay off of the fence. I think Masvidal had the right idea in trying to counter Usman's jab and also try to create some chaos in the early stages of the fight. But as we saw throughout the fight, Masvidal slowly started getting backed up and became more and more worried with being taken down. I'm also not entirely sold on Masvidal's cage wrestling. I'm not too sure if he can stand up after Usman takes him down. I don't think Usman did as much damage as we thought he did in the first fight, but I also think that Usman probably aimed for more control time in their second fight. Masvidal had some pretty good moments in where he was being able to low kick Usman on his entries, but I'm not too sure how long he's going to be able to consistently keep that up. I think Usman's bodywork really surprised me, and I think if he keeps that up in their second fight, he might be able to push Masvidal back even further, or actually completely nullify his striking. Back to the painting. After I painted all the skin with Ulthuan Gray, I decided to paint the carapace with Ipadon Black. I'm going for a very specific paint scheme, and you'll see soon what I'm doing with it. I'm not really sure what Usman needs to change in order to win the second fight. The first fight was rather dominant for Usman, and I don't think he really has to change all that much in order to beat Masvidal a second time. He's able to get the takedowns relatively easily, mainly because of Masvidal's reckless low kicking and also Masvidal's body kicking. I think Masvidal was able to catch Usman on the entries a little bit, but it really didn't affect him all that much given that Masvidal gave up most of the cage. For Masvidal, I'd like to see him go to the low kicks and maybe some body kicks more often. I think he had the right idea in trying to catch Usman out cold at the start of every round, but I don't know how long he can keep that up. Maybe his cardio will improve for the second fight and he might be able to do a bit more damage, but I think Masvidal's style inherently leaves him against the cage more often than not, and that's a really big issue when fighting a guy like Kamaru Usman. But I think we all understand how this fight was going to go, and I think Masvidal is just a little bit unlucky in that he got Usman as the world champion rather than Woodley, which I think would have been a much more favorable fight for him. So all in all, I think this would be a rather dominant win again for Kamaru Usman, unless Masvidal comes out with a completely new style that stifles Usman. We're just about done base coating our miniature. I wasn't too sure how this paint style is going to go, as this is the first time I've tried out this scheme, but I'm really excited to see what we can make. I wasn't too concerned about getting the black paint or the white paint all over other parts of the miniature, as I'm going to paint over them later on anyways. For the next stage, I'm going to be using Thousand Suns Blue as well as Pallid White Flesh while mixing it up for also a lighter blue. I'm going to create 2 lines of the dark blue and a light blue, and then I'm going to create some dotting effect with the black, the dark blue, and the light blue to create our carapace scheme. But anyways, let's talk about the fight that has me most excited for this Saturday, and that's Weili Zhang versus Rose Namajunas. I think this is a really important fight for Weili Zhang, not just because she's fighting Rose Namajunas, but because Rose possesses one of the biggest challenges I think for Weili's entire career. In my opinion, Weili is incredibly good in exchanges, and she's very durable with a very good gas tank that will take her pretty far in fights. When I made the Joanna versus Weili video, I noted that Joanna's diversity in the striking exchanges, as well as multiple combinations with body head, with kicks and punch combinations, were generally more diverse and faster than Weili Zhang. But what I didn't understand was how durable and how effective Weili is when she lands on her opponents. There's a significant power difference, and was also a bit of a speed difference as well. I think Weili is going to be able to leverage these gifts against Rose Namajunas, who in my opinion has slowed down a little bit in terms of durability. But what I think Rose can do very well against Weili is stuff that Joanna just couldn't do very well. Rose is actually quite good in exchanges compared to Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and that's because she often moves her head off the center line when she's throwing punches or exchanging in hooks. I think Rose also has the right idea. By applying lots of feints and be able to move in and out very quickly will definitely make Weili have to struggle and find exchanges where she normally would have gotten them in the first place. But I'm also incredibly worried about Namajunas' durability and also mental mindset. In her last fight against Jessica Andrade, she allowed Andrade to get in on her way too many times compared to their first fight. I'm also quite concerned with how Rose Namajunas deals with the low kicks that Weili Zhang likes to use. I'm pretty sure if Weili watched the second Joanna fight with Rose, she can immediately tell that there's going to be a great advantage to low kicking Rose early and often. And while Rose might be allergic to body shots, I'm not quite sure how Weili is going to be able to bang her to the body. Perhaps Weili might kick her to the body, but I don't know how consistently Weili is going to be able to attack her to the body. I think there'll be a lot to be said if Weili Zhang can accurately defuse Rose Namajunas. Rose is a really tough competitor, and I'm sure Zhang has the power to really slow her down. Either way, this is probably the most exciting fight in that both fighters excel in exchanges, and I truly think this will probably be the most exciting fight of the night. So after adding the different streaks of blues, I started adding the dots randomly and focusing more specifically on the border to create a much more natural patterning. This way I can create a natural looking carapace with only two different colors. For this next bit, I'm going to paint the claws a mixture of Abaddon black as well as Vallejo red. I also add a little bit of Screamer pink just for the spiky bit. So let's talk about Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade. I'm not too sure how to judge this fight, given Valentina's record, but also given Jessica Andrade's inconsistency across 3 different weight classes. For all intents and purposes, this should be a pretty cut and dry fight for Valentina. She has to maintain her distance while throwing left straights and throwing body kicks at the charging Andrade. But for Andrade, I'm not too sure how she's going to be able to handle Valentina. She's always fought roughly the same way, and I think applying her strategies against Joanna, but also against Rose, might do her some good. Regardless, I don't think this is a fight that Jessica Andrade can win based on her own technique, but rather on the merits of her power, but also her speed. She's incredibly fast and hits extremely hard across all 3 weight classes, and I think she should be able to leverage that against Valentina. But the problem with Andrade is that her defense is often very lacking. She pulls her head back when she's being attacked, and she also has an inability to move her head, so I don't think she's going to be able to get into Valentina very easily. And I don't think that Valentina will fall for the body shots as easily as others. I also added some Mornfang Brown and Cadian Flesh Tone just for the dots on the skin. So where does this leave Jessica Andrade? Well, she has a big task ahead of her. She's fighting an opponent that's far more likely to hang back and throw body kicks and left straights to dissuade her from charging forward than Joanna or Rose ever did. In terms of the wrestling, I really don't think Jessica Andrade has much to show her Valentina Shevchenko. Shevchenko's fought much bigger opponents, and she's been able to hold them off in the wrestling exchanges quite well, so I don't think Jessica Andrade will be able to lift her quite like she did lift Rose or Joanna. I think this is also a pretty decent opportunity for Jessica Andrade to be more active with her low kicking. She did a pretty good job low kicking Rose, but also Joanna, and I think this will be a pretty good entry for her to get onto Valentina Shevchenko. For Shevchenko, I think more or less the same thing will get her the win. I think she can easily outpoint Andrade, but I can also see Valentina being a little bit rusty against a charging fighter like Andrade. Valentina hasn't fought a fighter like Andrade in a very long time, and I'm pretty sure Andrade will have some pretty interesting tools to bring to her fight. Overall, I think this is the least exciting of the 3 fights, mainly because of the outcome, but also the fighter's habits. Neither fighter really has to change much in order to beat the other, and neither fighter has really shown a big difference in their style over the years of their career. But I'm always hesitant to pick against Andrade just given how different she is of a fighter compared to others. And there you have it, the completed model and also our discussion of the 3 fights of the night. Personally, I think the 3 fights are really strong. I think Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade might be the weakest, but it can still have some really exciting moments. I think the Weili Zhang versus Namajunas fight will be an absolute banger, and I think the Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal might be a fight where Jorge Masvidal surprises us a little bit. But either way, this has been Painting and Fighting. So if you like this video, please like, comment, or subscribe. Comments really help us gauge whether the show will continue or not. And also fight-side Patreon subscriptions will really help fund our shows and help us explore new content. My name is Julian Lung, and this is Painting and Fighting. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Want to do the intro with me? Ready? Let's look at the camera right there, right? Let me go. Hi, my name is Julian Lung, and this is Painting and Fighting.